I'm 81 years old, and if you've been watching these videos, you know a few things about me by now. You know, I played it safe my whole life. You know, I had a brother named Eddie who lived bigger in 64 years than I managed in 81. You know, I had a son named James, and I spent his childhood handing him my fear like it was wisdom. But there's someone I haven't mentioned yet. And the reason I haven't mentioned her is the same reason I failed her. I kept taking her for granted. My name is Walt Hartley, and this is about my daughter, Clara. Clara is 52 now. She lives about 20 minutes from me, same town she grew up in, same county, same zip code. She calls every Sunday. She brings food when I forget to eat. She drove me to every doctor's appointment for the last 4 years without being asked. She is, by every measure, the most faithful person in my life. And it took me until very recently to understand what that faithfulness actually cost her. But I need to start at the beginning because context matters here. When Diane died, James was 7. Clara was 2, almost 3, but close enough to 2 that she has no real memory of her mother. None. Sometimes I think that's a mercy, and sometimes I think it's the cruelest thing imaginable. James lost a mother. Clara never even got to have one. She grew up in a house where her mother was a photograph on the mantle and a name we said carefully, like something fragile. I've told you already what kind of father I was after Diane passed. I kept my head down. I kept the machine running. I was present in all the practical ways and absent in all the ways that mattered. But here's what I didn't tell you. With James, I was controlling. With Clara, I was something else entirely, something quieter and in some ways more selfish. I leaned on her, not in ways that were obvious, not in ways I could even see at the time, but looking back with the kind of clarity that only comes when the story is mostly over, I can see it now.
Clara was easy. She was warm. She was the child who didn't push back, who filled the silences, who learned very early how to read the temperature of a room. She had her mother's instinct for people. She could tell when I was low without finding a word.
And she'd find some small way to make things lighter. She was 7 years old and she was already taking care of me. But there's also this. I needed it. After Diane, I was hollered in ways I never, and Clara filled some of that without either of us understanding what was happening. Furniture around a fireplace without ever thinking to ask if the fireplace wants to be there. See, she understood people. She could walk into a room and know within minutes who needed what. Diane would have loved that about her, would have recognized it. But I was running on autopilot, and I filed it under the wrong category. Called it sweetness. I should have called it a gift. When she was in high school, Clara started talking about social work, about wanting to help families going through hard things, grief, mostly kids who'd lost parents, in situations that hit close to home for reasons neither of us said out loud. There was a program in Columbus, good program. She'd done her research. She showed me the brochure one evening at the kitchen table, and I looked at it and I said, something I have to live with now. That's a long way to go for something that doesn't pay well. That's all. 8 words. I didn't yell. I didn't forbid anything. I just made the dream feel impractical. Clara just folded the brochure and said, yeah, you're probably right.
She went to the local college, studied something sensible, got a job in hospital administration that was, I'll admit, a decent job with decent pay, and she stayed. I told myself she stayed because she wanted to, because this was her home.
Because some people just aren't the wandering type, I never once asked her if any of that was true. The years went by the way they do when you aren't paying close enough attention. Clara dated us, And when I asked once, he said something vague about it not working out, and I nodded and moved on. She made friends, good ones from what I could tell, but they came and went. She was always available, always on Sunday, always 20 minutes away. Videos and talking about the life I didn't live and the dreams I buried with Diane, talking about fear, talking about what had I should have done differently. And the whole time, Clara was right there, 20 minutes away, watching her father finally wake up and wonder where the time went. While the time was also going somewhere for her, and I wasn't watching particular. And then she got quiet in a way I'd learned to recognize meant something. She was looking out the kitchen window, same window Diane used to stand at, and she said, "Dad, can I tell you something without you getting upset?" I said, "Of course." Well, Portland. He had a job offer there, a good one. And he was, from the way she talked about him, someone who mattered to her, someone she could have built a life with. I didn't remember him. I'm not sure I ever really knew him. She said she told him she couldn't go, that her dad was alone, that James wasn't nearby, and someone had to be close, that she'd feel terrible leaving. He didn't wait. She couldn't blame him for that. But she said it quietly, not as an accusation and just as a fact, like she was reading from a file. And when she was done, she took a sip of her coffee and looked at me and said, "I don't regret staying, Dad. I just wanted you to know it was a choice. I wanted you to know there was something on the other side of it moment. There was grief in there, yes. Guilt, obviously. But there was something else, something uglier, something I'm ashamed of. There was a part of me, some small locked room in the back of my heart that was relieved she had stayed, that was glad she was nearby, that had meted her there without ever saying so, without ever asking if she could afford it. I had taken my daughter's life and called it a gift. You have to understand, I didn't tell her to stay. I never asked her to sacrifice anything. I didn't even know she was sacrificing. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You can take something from a person without ever reaching for it. You can hold someone back just by needing them too much, by never pushing them toward the door, by letting the warmth of their presence become something you depend on so deeply that your dependence itself becomes a wall around them. I never told Clara that I'd be fine without her nearby, because honestly, I didn't want to know if that was true. I never asked what she wanted for herself. Not really. I asked how work was going, sleeping well, and if she'd tried that new place on Maple Street. But I never sat her down and said, "Clara, what does your life look like in your best imagination? What would you do if I wasn't a factor?" I didn't ask because part of me didn't want her to think about it. Because if she thought about it too hard, she might answer in a way that took her further from me. That's not love. That's need wearing love's coat. Here's what I understand now on this side of 81, when understanding something doesn't do me as much good as it once could have. Here's what I understand now on this side of 81, when understanding something doesn't do me as much good as it once could have. There are two ways to clip a bird's wings. You can cut them, which is obvious, which is brutal, which is what I did to James in some ways, or you can build such a comfortable cage, so warm and safe and familiar, that the bird stops noticing it has wings at all. That's what I did to Clara. And I did it while telling myself she was the easy one, the uncomplicated one, the one I didn't have to worry about. Nothing. And it cost her everything I never thought to count. It doesn't quite cover 2 decades of looking at someone and seeing comfort instead of a person, which is its own kind of heartbreak if you think about it long enough. And she said, "I'm not telling you so you'll feel bad. I'm telling you because I needed you to see me. I needed you to see me. Well, she went home an hour later, and I sat in that kitchen for a very long time. I thought about Diane the way I always do when things come undone. I thought about what she would have seen in Clara that I missed. She would have seen it early. She would have named it. She would have sat Clara down at this very table with the crayons she used for James and said, "This girl's going to spend her whole life folding other people up. And someone better make sure someone holds her up too." That someone should have been me. I'll tell you what I've since learned about Clara, things I know now because I finally started asking. She still thinks about social work. Not as a career anymore. She's past the age where starting over is practical, but she volunteers now 2 evenings a week at a center for kids who've lost parents. He's been doing it for 6 years. He never mentioned it. I never asked. She's been quietly doing the thing I told her didn't pay well on her own time for free for 6 years. That's who my daughter is. That's who she's always been. And I was so busy grieving the life I didn't live that I never properly witnessed the life she was living right in front of me. I'm going to say something now that I need you to hear, especially if you're a parent, especially if you have a child who makes it easy, who doesn't cause trouble, but because ease can be a form of invisibility. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, as they say, and the quiet wheel just keeps turning. Who shows up and stays close and never seems to need much. Pay attention to that child. Not because something is wrong, but because ease can be a form of invisibility. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, as they say, and the quiet wheel just keeps turning. And sometimes it's turning all the way down a road you never thought to look at. Ask your children what they want, not what they're doing, not how school is going or whether they're eating enough. Ask them what they want, what they dream about when no one's watching, what they'd do if nothing were holding them in place. And then this part matters. Actually listen. Don't listen for the answer you can work with. Don't listen for the version you can steer. Just listen. Let them be a full person in front of you, not just the role they've grown into in your story. Because here's the thing about people like Clara, people with that particular gift of attunement and care and warmth, they're very good at becoming what the room needs. They can shape themselves to the space they're given. And if the space you give them is defined entirely by your needs, they will fill it dutifully, completely, and quietly lose everything that was specifically, particularly, irreplaceably theirs. And now, something for those of you on the other side of this. If you're someone who stayed, if you're someone who folded the brochure and said, "Yeah, you're probably right," if you're someone who made yourself small and nearby and available and told yourself it was love, it was duty, it was just who you are, I want you to hear this too. It might not be too late. Clara started volunteering at 46. She picked up the thing I'd made feel impractical, and she found a way to do it that fit inside the life she'd built. The fire was still there, smaller, maybe, running on different fuel. But there, I believe that's true for most people. Not all. Some things go out for good, and I won't pretend otherwise. But most fires, if there's someone finally willing to see them, can still be coaxed back up from the embers. The door to Portland is closed. I know that she knows that. We're not pretending otherwise. But she's looking at some options now. A longer training in grief counseling. Something that would let her do more of the work she's already doing. She told me about it last Sunday over coffee in this very kitchen. And this time I leaned forward. I asked questions. Good questions, I hope. What would the commitment look like? How did she find out about it? Was this something she'd been thinking about for a while? She looked at me a little sideways when I started asking, like she was waiting for the catch, waiting for the butt and the raised eyebrow and the long pause. It opened up somehow, like a room where someone just parted the curtains. That's what it looks like when someone feels seen. I know because I've almost never produced it before. This time I did, and I am going to hold on to that for whatever time I have left. I told you in my first video that Eddie filled 64 years to the brim, that Diane dreamed bigger in 41 years than I have in 81. That's still true, but I missed one. Clara, my daughter, who is 52 years old and has never in her life been properly asked what she wanted, has been filling her years in quiet ways I was too self-absorbed to notice. She's been doing it right here, 20 minutes away, every single Sunday. I'm still here. So is she. That's something. If you're a parent who recognizes yourself in a T-Scrat, and don't wait for a Sunday when your child gets quiet and looks out the window. Go first. Make the call. Ask the question. Be willing to hear an answer that costs you something, because the alternative costs them everything. And if you're someone who's been the Clara in your family, who's been steady and nearby and endlessly accommodating, and you've been so long in the business of making things easy for everyone else that you've lost track of what you actually want, give that some attention. You're allowed. The people you've been caring for, the good ones anyway, they want that for you, even if they've never said so. Even if, like me, they were too busy with their own regrets to notice what you were quietly giving up. Clara, if you ever watch one of these videos, and I suspect you might, and I suspect you'll watch this one twice, I want you to know that I see you. I should have said that 40 years ago. I'm saying it now. Whatever time the runway has left on it, I intend to spend more of it paying attention to what your life looks like, not just what it provides for mine. The clock doesn't wait for anyone. I know that better than most. But some things, not everything, but some things can still be said before it runs out. So, Sam, what are you waiting for?